So remember that video I did like 2 weeks ago where I was talking about the Bride of Frankenstein and Tooth Fairy might be returning to Horror Nights? Well, there was a part 2 to that video, and sadly you're not going to see it because, well, Horror Night Nightmares dropped a speculation map 4.0, pretty much making most of that video straight to the trash can. So stay tuned for the new updated video on the new speculation map, which not really much has changed, and yet the community is in an uproar. We're going to talk all about that on today's video. Hey everybody, if you are new around these parts, I am Zombie Chris. I am one of the founding father original OGs when it comes to this Horror Nights. If you're new around here and you like some of that stuff, as well as some horror movies, theme park talk, all that good stuff, make sure to subscribe. Anyway, let's get to this map. So, much to the surprise of everybody, Beetlejuice was already announced, so we're not gonna discuss that on this map. That's already officially announced. Puppet Theater Captive Audience is still listed on the map, even though that was the first official announcement of HHN 30. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Horror Nights. Bride of Frankenstein and Tooth Fairy are confirmed on here to be coming back. That seems to be getting people in an uproar. I won't touch that subject. If you want to know what I'm talking about, just go on Facebook and read some of the comments about that one. Anyway, we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre being on here. Now, whether this is the original, whether this is the new one that's coming out this year, a hybrid, we're not quite sure on that because they already did the classic Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They did it in HHN 26, so it wasn't that long ago. Although I'm hearing rumors that this could be, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So we'll have to see in due time of how that is going. So the Wicked Growth, Revenge of the Pumpkin, we already know if you watch the Captive Audience video, they did leak some of the characters in there. They were kind of in the background when they were talking with Greg Nicotero. I'll get to that in a second. You did see some of the pumpkin stuff in there as well. So up next, The Haunting of Hill House. What's funny for me is when I first saw the speculation map, we're talking like last year, I was gang-ho about this. I was like, oh my God, Haunting of Hill House. It's going to be probably the top best house of the year. It was probably up there for me. Now that time has settled, and I didn't really enjoy the second season, although I'm hoping this is just going to be the first season. I don't know, my hype has died down. It'll be different once I'm in the house. I'm going to be, you know, crying like a little girl and running around and balled up like this. But I'm pretty sure I'll come out of the house and love it. But right now, I got to say my hype has died down just a little bit for this one. Up next, we have HHN icons captured. So some of this stuff has changed as far as like the titling. I'm not sure if that's a difference on the storyline or the houses, but HHN icons have captured. We see the lantern is back. Hopefully that will mean that we're going to get a lot more merch than we did last year dedicated to the icons, although they gave us a lot. But with the Beetlejuice revamp on the merch, gives me hope that we will see a big improved revamp on some of the icon stuff. And give us a lantern, for God's sakes. I mean, you can charge, you know, $19.99 for it and make it like interactive, or you can touch it and it lights up or something. You can do something. All right. So up next, welcome to Scary, Ohio. Welcome to Scary, Horror in the Heartland. I'm not really digging this title. I think it's kind of dumb, but whatever. Title's just a title. Hopefully the house is going to represent a lot of good stuff with Horror Nights in the past. And the biggest bombshell to people, but not really a bombshell because we kind of been knowing this for a couple years now. If you didn't know, HHN Hollywood actually did a Creepshow maze. So therefore, our style in Orlando is we usually do typically a scare zone and then they do a house. So this seems like a running tradition with them. They first did it with Trick or Treat as a scare zone, then it returned as a house. Killer Clowns was a scare zone. So for Creepshow this year, and then a house next year, which is going to be interesting because we're already having a house this year. So now that leaves an open spot for next year. So yeah, scare zone and a house for Creepshow. Although the placement is a bit off to me, it seems kind of dumb in my opinion, but you can't really do a scare zone best of scare zone mashup, and you can't put that over where Rob Zombie's scare zone was last year because the length of it. You need a bigger area to cover a bunch of, scare zones. And Hollywood and New York are probably the biggest, areas that they can do this in. So, yeah, I'm a nitpick because it would have made sense to kind of go through the scare zone and then into the house. But we'll have to see how things play out on that. So speaking of the scare zones while we're there, we have over in Hollywood the Best of Scare Zone mashup, which I'm assuming is going to have vampires at some point, Vamp 55. Who knows what other scare zones they can throw in there. Follow us on Brew Bros, and we're going to maybe do a video on this. Leave it down in the comment section if you want to see us do something like what 5 scare zones of the past would we put in a best of scare zone mashup. I'm putting it out there right now, so it's up to you guys. Leave it down in the comment section and let me know. So over on the Central Park area where the pumpkins normally are, we have Terras Cuentes. I probably didn't pronounce that right, but who cares? It's dedicated to some of the past. I'm sure there's going to be some past monsters in there. We're going to have Terror Queen herself. Hopefully her motorcycle would be in there at somewhere, maybe on a stage or something. Creepshow, I already talked about that. We have an original scare zone going in New York. Don't know what that could be, but I'm kind of a fan of Horror Nights kind of returning to the original. I mean, we've been having a lot of IPs in the scare zones. We had Chucky in the scare zone. We had, Zombieland. We had Walking Dead, The Purge. I'm kind of wanting to see them do something original. And I mean, although we had the Vamp New Year's thing, and some of the zones of last year were all original except for the Rob Zombie. And in my opinion, they were kind of awful, but that's neither here nor there. And then we have the biggest zone in the smallest area. So the 30th anniversary zone, it would have made sense for this to be in Hollywood. Kind of retrospect of having the icon zone that we had, which was like phenomenal when you're talking about anniversary year and icons and having them have their own stages and their own kills. It would have been cool to get like a sequel to that, but instead when we walk into the park, it's just going to be that little area. I'm sure there's going to be some icons and characters, and they're going to switch from different casts. I'm sure that's probably going to be the thing. I would have wanted it somewhere else, but we got it. Next up, we are talking about the show. Obviously, the Lagoon show is returning. That is a big, phenomenal thing. I love that Lagoon show. Love it to death. Love it more so than I love almost any other show there. And I'm not even a Bill and Ted fan, so it didn't come back. It's not rumored to come back. I can care less. We already know Academy is not coming back. So the big fear factor area is just a U-Rest area. It's not going to be anything other than that. That's going to probably bring a big problem with this event, because if that stage area is not eating up people are just going to be wanting to do houses and scare zones. Thus, it's going to make the event a little bit different this year. Not in the best way. But that is it. Some of the rides are open, but who goes out Horror Nights for the rides? That is it for the speculation on this new brand new map, 4.0 or 1.0 or 2021 1.0, whatever you want to call it. That is it. Stay tuned. Boo Bros coverage on this. We're going to have I'm sure they're going to cover it on the podcast. They're going to give their thoughts. They're going to go in depth a little bit more. So stay tuned for Boo Bros. Link will be down in the description box if you haven't checked that out. That is it for this video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for the support. I'm out of here.